Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. I'm Juliet Hahn here with my co-host Brent Sopel. How are you?
Yes, it's a Monday. It's Monday. I'm wonderful.
Oh, good. And we have a really special guest, Jon Markel. How are you?
Good. How are you? Well,
I'm good.
Special at best.
Oh.
We're all special.
You're in the right spot for special. Queen special over here, leading the way.
Exactly. So I'm going to preface for a second. So Jon is in a band, Carbon Leaf, but the fun thing is, well, that's fun, but I'm going to bring it back to me to make it more fun.
Well, you don't have your attention hat on.
I know. My husband, John, got me a hat that says, I love attention. Which, okay, well, I do like attention. But so Jon and I grew up together. He was my sister Megan and Jason's age, and so 2 years younger than me in high school. And I drove Jon. He lived literally down the street, swam. I mean, our families were really kind of intertwined in our younger years in the neighborhood at Sunnybrook. For anyone that grew up with us in Morristown that's listening to this, there's a lot that kind of intertwined. And I just recently found out that you were dyslexic through Morristown Alumni magazine because Danielle Fetty sent it to me. And I was like, wait. So I called Megan and Jason and said, I didn't realize Jon Markel was dyslexic. You guys know that I do this podcast, right? I mean, but they are like, I love them to death, but they're useless in any of these kind of worlds. They're like, oh yeah, we didn't think about it. Totally fine because it's not their world. But I said to Brent, I was like, listen, I have a really great guest. I'm really hoping that he says yes, because I have such fond memories, again, of our families so intertwined. And I didn't realize that you struggled in school, where we all know my story that I struggled and I didn't know I had dyslexia. So welcome. And thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah,
I appreciate you asking me.
Well, accepting it, especially accepting it for a Monday morning. So we're very thrilled.
I'm a musician, so every day is the same to me. Monday is the same as Thursday.
This is true. This is true. So, Jon, I want to start a little bit of like when you were diagnosed. Like, when did you find out that you struggled, or that you thought differently, or you learned differently, or that you were different?
So I knew I was different immediately. As soon as I knew I was my own person and like I was something different than everyone else. Like I remember that moment of being like, oh, like I am seeing things through my eyes and I'm a human, like I'm my own thing and all these other people are these other things. I knew that I was different. It's fine now. So, but I have, being able to read, being able to see words, things like that are pretty much impossible for me from the get-go. I have, but it's all under control now. Anxiety. I remember having a conversation with my father, and I was so little that I was standing on their bed, and I was still like with my father at my father's height. And I was saying to him, I was like, there's something wrong with me. I can't swallow food. And it was just me being anxious, like this anxious thing. I was like, I can't swallow food correctly. I get scared at stuff. And my dad looked at me like, like, I don't know. Like, I remember this, like the very vivid memory, and just being like, my dad being like, I remember him saying, I want you to be okay. And then we hugged, and then it was sort of, that was it. You know what I mean? But it was just this tiny little kid. I was really, really sensitive, just trying to say, there's something going on with me. And then, I also have the ADHD like crazy. So I did okay in like middle school and things like that. And as soon as as soon as we had to read books and things like that, it was over for me. Like I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but when the teacher would be like, hey guys, everyone read chapter 1 and put your books down when you're ready. And I would be on the second page, just sitting there, and I would watch all of everyone, especially the smart kids, would go first. They'd put their book down, and I'd be like, your book's down already? I'm on the second paragraph and I've read it 3 times already. So that's when it sort of started. And if you remember, Juliet, like it didn't exist. You got good grades and you were smart. You got bad grades and you were done, and for, for me, it was like, you just suck. Because my sister, very smart.
Your sister was so smart,
super smart, really good at sports. She said, "This is starting to jump ahead." We were talking the other day, and she was like, "Oh, I was talking to my friend, and she knows your band." And they were like, "Oh my God, your brother's in Carbon Leaf? That's crazy. Do you do music too?" And she's like, "No, I didn't get any of the music genes, but I know how to read a book." What kind of thing.
Right.
So my sister was really smart, and my parents are both really smart. They're both like really did really well in school, and that was the thing in my house. It was like, you're not trying hard enough, you know?
And I do, and I know you're going to laugh, but like every time you say you're not smart, like it pings me because you are very smart. You just you weren't school smart, and that's what I always would say to Montgomery. I'd be like, "You're smart, you're just not school smart, dude." And life right now, when you're in this world, and all it is like, are you smart? Because my daughter is an incredible student, and the boy, like my middle son, is a fine student, and Montgomery was not a great student. And I remember in our household, where we all kind of weren't, like Megan now is like, yeah, I just didn't suck as bad as you, so I didn't get any attention. It was like, you're fine, you're getting C's. She's like, I wasn't failing stuff like you and Elizabeth, but Jenna, was a great student. And so it is that kind of thing, and especially where we grew up. I mean, where we grew up was like everyone was really good in school, or you were the troublemaker, right? You came from like I don't know, I hate to say it, but the wrong side of the tracks, and you didn't have the in-unit family, even though we were all friends, but that was the kind of scenario.
But to be able to know what you're saying to your dad at that young of an age, like I couldn't swallow, I get scared. That's not smart. That's fucking brilliant to be able to understand what those words at that at that age. So again, to me, this is not even a smart or not. That is the absolute brilliance, because you've got people that are 20, 30, 40 years old that aren't able to articulate those words, and you were able to do that at 2 or 3 years old. So you're not smart. You're brilliant.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I definitely... I'm 49 now, so at this point I've settled in, and again, being a sensitive person is a gift and a curse.
Oh yeah.
But being able to feel everything, and I've been sober for forever at this point. And Brent, once you become sober, you have to face your demons. Your demons show up, and being sober, it helps you with the facing demons, but there's more of them. You know what I mean? And after years of being sober, I at least, I'm a happy man, and I have faced these demons, and I still do. Obviously, we all do, but I am happy. And my parents, they didn't not use any tools that they had. They use everything that they knew. So to in 1982 or whatever, to be like, okay, let's get you the testing that you need. It just didn't exist. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like, all right, kid. Well, we're doing everything we can. But
how old were you when you did find out they're doing that testing?
I was an adult. I was well into. I mean, this is. I had to go like, oh, that's what because I have stepkids now, but I didn't have kids like Juliet, and Brent. You guys are like, all right, my kids are having these problems.
Yeah,
let's figure out what's what, and then you're like, that's me,
right?
I did that,
right?
So
right.
I didn't have that, so it was well into. When I was in college, I transferred to a college called Goddard College in Vermont, and it was progressive education. And that's when, like towards the end, like the internet started, and you could find out information and things like that. And I was like, oh, okay. Cause I was surrounded, anyone that seeks out progressive education, it's not, it's a lot of like real life, like talking to people to get stuff done. It's not the standardized testing and things like that. You had to go in front of a board and be like, and talk and be like, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to accomplish it. And at the end of the semester, you go in, okay, this is what I did. This is what I learned, and all of that. And that worked perfect for me. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I can do stuff,
Right.
like I can do these things. So it wasn't until I was an adult that I was like, oh, I get it. Like talking to other people and simple things like going past an advertisement, and I'd be like, I would say, like, I would read it out loud, and they would be like, that's not what that says. They're not selling cocaine, John. I thought the word was cocaine. They're like, no,
that happens to me
Coca-Cola.
all the time, right? That's so, oh my God, that's so crazy.
I don't even, half the time it happens so much that I don't even do it because I know it's going to be wrong, so I don't even do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, it is. And then, right, when it comes back, be like, oh my God, like how many times have you read a text message and then been like, oh my God, I go to Dan. I'm like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. And then I go back and I'm like, oh, honey, sorry. I totally read that wrong. Stop what you're doing. We don't need to do any of what I just told you. I fucked that up.
If I have to text my wife, if I have to text her, that restaurant gave me diarrhea, I can't even get it close enough for autocorrect to take over.
Oh, totally. Well, I voice text everything. So I am a voice note and voice texter. And when I met him, he's like, you can't voice text. And I was like, okay, I don't know how we're going to communicate. So we talk on the phone.
Let's be clarified.
When I stalked him.
When you're stalking me, I had a job. So she wanted to, send me these novels, 15-minute voice. And I'm like, I can't listen to them while I'm in my meeting.
Right.
So now if you text them, I'll get through it. Might take a little longer, but I'm in the meeting. At least I can answer. So,
but I'm like, I can't put that in. Like, even if I voice text it, it's going to say it wrong, and then I can't pick up the wrong, where it's wrong. So it's really funny because I have people in my life that love my voice notes, and then I have people in my life that I cannot. Like, so my kids won't listen to my voice notes. I mean, fair enough. And then my husband, he's like, please just call me. Like, I cannot listen to your voice notes. And I have two of my very close friends that will not listen to my voice notes.
Well, they're novels. They're not like 1 or 2 cents. Hey, can you grab the kids? Hey, can you stop on the way home? Can you get some milk bread? Done. No. So you're going to take a left. Then I need you to take a left. Then your little shirt needs to be tucked in over here. And then you're going to flip over here. Then you're going to do this. And then you're going to stop and get bread. Then you go to the next store. I'm going to run out of gas. I need to go get. Those are your voice notes.
Well, because it's usually when I have more things to say. Anyways,
my stepdaughter calls those blogs. She's like, I'm gonna send you a blog.
Oh, I love that. That's very cool. That's awesome. But so, John, have you ever found out in your family where where it came from?
No. It's
wow.
So I have no clue. If I look back at all of my grandparents and all that, I seem to be kind of an anomaly as far as I can tell. So I'm not really sure.
Right.
So it also I don't I more try to just in my life I celebrate all this stuff. I generally use humor for all of my things. So the way that I've dealt with it, because I didn't find out about anything really until I was like well an adult, and it's still sort of I'm still figuring out stuff. During the pandemic, I was like, oh my God, like someone gave me a book called The Gift of Adult ADHD. Because I would just be like, during the pandemic, we're all stuck inside, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to clean my house, and I'm downstairs, and then I go upstairs to do one thing, and then I go downstairs to do one thing, and I go upstairs to do one thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I got a pie in the oven. Oh my God, things like that. And so see, people are like, dude, adult ADHD, man. It's like, it's so obvious. So I'm still like learning about stuff. So what I've done, at least in my situation, is I've sort of settled into my life, which I love, which is great. And these things that, like, the way I work and the way my brain works, it's got me to this point. Like, the way my brain works really hurts me when it comes to, reading and things like just the regular stuff, but it helps me with being creative, and it helps me with music so much. I can see things. I'm a bass player, and I can see things on my fretboard in a way that I think makes me, without the risk of sounding like a blowhard, but like, no. I think it makes me more of a unique. If you listen to me play, I play different than a lot of people play. You can listen to me sit down and play and go, oh, that's Jon. Whereas a lot of bass players, you're like, oh, that could kind of be anybody. So I really celebrate it, and I use humor and sort of self-deprecating humor, which is fine for me. I like that. I don't even know where I was going with my thought.
But with the adult, like, so it's not like you haven't found where the hereditary thing is, and it's not like you're looking and searching for that, because it's like you've come to the terms with where you are and where you've been, and how it is. You see, I mean, that's when I met Brent. He calls me the unicorn, as you've listened to the podcast, because I kind of did the same thing. I was like, I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. And the things that I'm good at, I'm actually really, really good at. But I didn't also, like, it was athletics, right? And then I didn't realize until later, I mean, really the last number of years, like, how good I am at interviewing and connecting and doing that. But it is an interesting journey as we go through and learning, about ourselves, and and some of these good and bad parts, right? It's like you kind of I see your smirk. He's got something to say.
No, I just I didn't find out till I think it was September where mine came from. So I just turned 48. So I'm right, we're all in the same neck of woods here. Well, Juliet's 51. So
thanks.
Yeah,
you guys are still in your 40s.
Yeah.
Well, wait until you get into your 50s. It's fucking awesome. Let me just say that. I know it wasn't always. I was like, oh, what's happening?
Oh yes, now it's awesome.
Now it's awesome. 51's awesome.
So I didn't find out till September. So I was just about 48 years old, where mine came from. And I was kind of like you. I'm like, I'm an anomaly. I'm not fitting in. I'm not seeing the connection. And it just, my uncle's a jade artist, and he ended up doing a piece for our Stanley Cup dinner, which we had in October. And he's like, oh, happy to do it. Obviously dyslexia runs in our family. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So it took me this long. I thought, I still think I'm adopted. So, nobody played hockey. Nobody, in my family. So it took me that long. It doesn't change anything for me, but it was interesting to see that it took that long to figure out exactly where it did come from. Can it skip a generation? Absolutely. Can it skip two? Yeah, it can. That's the great thing about dyslexia. It's got a mind of its own.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's yeah. Go ahead, Jon.
I suspect that someone back maybe in my grandparents, like so my parents seem to both do very well. My sister did very well in school and they don't seem to suffer from the same things that I do. But if you go back to my grandparents, at least, someone in there could have easily had something and no one would have ever talked about it.
Yeah. They wouldn't have talked about it.
That's the generation. It would have just been like, it's just how it is.
Right.
So it could exist, and it's gone with history. You know?
Right. And my dad didn't find out really what the labels were until I was diagnosed in college, even though my older sister, Elizabeth, there was like diagnosis. So I should say he knew that there was something, but there was no labels. Like he wasn't like, okay, this is what I am. But we always knew, my mom would always say, oh, you guys like learn like your dad. Right. So it was like, okay, we learn different. We have learning disabilities, but there was no label to it. I mean, I think Elizabeth, because she was more creative, that it was more like obvious with her dyslexia, I guess. And I was so much worse in math. So it was just like, oh, you're just dumb, right? Like, even though I struggled in the English part, I kind of cheated my way and
You
figured.
just do girl math. That's all.
Yeah, well, that's what they used to say. They'd be like, oh, you're just a girl. And like, and now I know I'm dyscalculia, you fuckers, right? Like, it was like, hello, there was something like I just couldn't learn the way you were teaching. But I remember my dad in college. So I was first diagnosed with ADHD, and I read Driven to Distraction. And I remember being like, and it was Dr. Hallowell and Dr. Ratley. And I will never forget them because they're both like Harvard trained doctors who also are dyslexic and ADHD. And this book was so
impressive. You remember the name in the book?
Oh,
wow.
no, because it was life changing. It was so like uplifting. But and John, you'll know. Remember the Monarsics?
Mm-hmm.
So So, and I forget the girl that I went to school with, but I remember sitting in college and you're trying to drop out 1,000 times and just being like I cannot do this. And an infomercial with Dr. Monarsic came on talking about ADHD. And I called my mom and I was like, I think I'm ADHD. And she's like, oh, yes, honey, you are. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do college, Mom. Like, you knew this? She's like, well, we never wanted to medicate you. That's when I actually went on meds and then became really good in school, but then also realized all my other, all the other struggles. And then when Montgomery, we diagnosed him, it was like, okay, now you have more stuff. But there was always like knowledge of like, okay, David was really good in school. But then when I got diagnosed with ADHD, my whole family was like, oh, I think we all are. And I think everyone tried meds. It was actually like a kind of a funny, Megan didn't, but like my dad did, my brother did. And it was like this kind of, if you can all of a sudden do really good in school, what is this? Like, we all need to do this, right? Like,
yeah,
it was this really crazy transformation that we don't know though from my dad where. And we suspect it. I think it probably was my grandmother, but like, who knows, right? It's like one of those things that, especially a woman back in those days, like she was a model and that was all we really knew. Like she wasn't, she didn't do any business and that was kind of it. And that was,
Yeah. It's so crazy. I mean, you'd think we're talking about 1925 and we're talking about the 90s, which is not that long ago. And, I think again, like I have a really great life. I'm really happy. I'm a happy person. So when it comes to it, it's like what happened. Again, nobody was sitting there going, I know what John's struggling from, but fuck him. You know what I mean? No one did that. Right. So I'm not sad about any of it. I don't hold any grudges on anything or anyone, but it is pretty crazy. Like I was in school. I had a teacher call me a functional illiterate. You know what I mean? My parents did not know what to do with me. They gave me, I was grounded. So in my family, getting good grades was the thing. I mean, that was the thing you had to do. And as soon as we started getting grades, I started getting bad grades. And my parents got me tutors. That didn't help. They tried to, I remember I had this tutor that would come over the house once a week for an entire semester. And he would go over everything with me and I'd be like, okay, I got it. I'm going to do it. And then I just still did terribly. I was grounded for more than an entire, so this was my longest streak. I was grounded other times too. But I was grounded. My longest streak was it was 13 months. I was grounded.
Ooh, nice.
I was grounded for an entire school year, then the summer, and then the beginning of the next school year. So I was allowed to leave the house I was allowed to go to school and then do sports practice afterwards. Then I had to come straight home. So I was not allowed to hang out with any of my friends for an entire year. I was not allowed to go anywhere, do anything. I had to sit at home and just stare at a wall or something. And TV was limited too. So they took away the Cosby Show from me.
Cosby Show.
So I heard, not saw an entire Cosby Show because my parents my family with my sister would sit and watch the Cosby Show, and I wasn't allowed to. So I would sit at the top of the steps and listen to the Cosby Show. And I'd be like, wow, I bet that looks awesome. It sounds funny. What's Rudy doing?
Right.
So I did that all through high school. I repeated my senior year of high school at a boarding school. At a boarding school, I did like a post-grad year. So I was a senior again at a school where you went to school because I was like, we just thought maybe maybe he's just not mature enough,
or late bloomer.
Yeah, whatever. And I was like I had so much ridiculous stuff going on. And I'm a happy man because I was such a sad little boy. Like I was so sad. Like every day was so sad, which is kind of funny and fine at this point.
Right.
But I wasn't allowed to do anything or hang out with my friends and stuff for so long that I was just like,
13 months. Wow.
Every minute was just like miserable. So I repeated my senior year of school at a boarding school where we had to wear suits, I was just like, I have to wear a suit. This sucks so much. I went to school on Saturday, and did a little better, but not good, and then got to college. My first semester of college, my GPA was a 0.95. I didn't even break one, which was so insane. And then finally, went to this college that was progressive education because I randomly found out about it. Like it was the most random thing. This band, the band Fish, they went there, and I really liked Fish at the time.
Yeah.
And so I heard about this college that they went to because it was kind of like lore, and I did research on it, and I looked it up, and I was like, this might be good for, this might be the best thing for me. Like this, I don't have to, do book reports, and I don't have to write these papers that I can't do.
Yeah.
And then I found that, and that was the thing that changed my life, because it was like the island of misfit toys where all of a sudden I was surrounded by all these people, and everyone was super open about everyone was studying their own problems,
Right.
everyone's senior thesis was about whatever they were going through kind of thing, But
yeah.
I was surrounded by people who were like, hey, let's talk about all this stuff. So,
Which is great. But so I am so curious because I do remember, were you a summer birthday too? Weren't you young? No.
No. I wasn't.
You weren't. Okay. You weren't one of those young ones.
December birthday.
Oh, you were December. Okay.
Middle of the road.
Oh, so are you a Capricorn too?
Sagittarius.
Oh, you're Sagittarius. Oh, sorry. We're Capricorns. Sorry. Happy belated birthday.
Yeah. Happy.
But when
all three of us are all together.
Yeah, I know, right? But when did you find music? I would love to know that journey.
So I tried out Brian. What's his last name? He changed it on Facebook, so I can't remember. Brian Defelsky.
Okay.
And Hunter Hendrickson. Hunter was my
best friend. Yeah.
Best friend.
Yeah.
We've been friends since we were babies. He was in the Philadelphia Boys Choir, and me and Brian Defelsky tried out for the Philadelphia Boys Choir. We went over Brian Defelsky's house, and the leader of the Philadelphia Boys Choir played notes on a piano and said, "Sing these." And then I was like, I think I did it. I think I did good, and I'm not a natural singer. I have found out later in life, and I didn't get in, and Brian Defelsky did get in. So when I found out that Brian got in, I cried and cried and cried and cried. And my mom was like, well, why don't we get you drum lessons? So I actually took drum lessons from maybe third grade until senior year of high school.
Okay.
And I was in, I don't know if you remember, I was in the marching band.
I don't, because I mean, so that's the thing, like, it's like an interesting, we were just recently talking about high school the other day, like in groups and like in different areas. And like in Morristown, when you were a girl athlete, you were popular. So we were talking to this other girl and she's like, no, girl athletes were not popular. She grew up in the Midwest. She's like, the girl athletes were not popular. They were like kind of bold, dykey, whatever. And I was like, no, all our girls. And then anyone that was in like band in our grade, go ahead.
You and your sister were also super hot. I mean, that doesn't hurt. That does not hurt the popularity. So the Williams family, some of the best looking people you've ever seen in your life. I mean, obviously, you know, you're still gorgeous, but I mean, the entire family. You should Brent. I'm telling you.
He's met David. So
okay.
David came down to the cup dinner. So
yeah,
they're actually working on a really cool project. But I was saying,
I'll see him after this.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. At 1.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that didn't hurt. Okay, I had to throw that out.
Okay, but thank you. But that's not what I was. And by the way, Megan, since the day she was born, was gorgeous. We always laugh. I went through like awkward stages, like, and I'm not saying but anything. Megan was like, there was never a time I was like, okay, I took all of your fucking awkward stages. She was always like this perfect little bow.
She had superpowers.
And she still does.
You call it a perfect little bow? I don't know.
She was like a little, like literally, Brent, there was not, like her hair was always perfect. You talk about it later. I mean, she would get really pissed because she'd be like, I'm not just pretty. Like I can fucking do sports. And then she would be like a monster on the field. And people were like, oh my God. Where I was always like a little bigger than her. And like, I was like a bull in the china shop. She was like more delicate. I was like, I said, fuck. And she didn't. Now she does a little bit, but not as much. Like it was definitely
not every other word.
No, not every word. And probably not like now that she's even down south. She's like, God, every time I'm around you, just the F-bomb and blah, blah, blah. But I was always like that. I kind of was more like the loud. She was more dainty, right? I mean, John, you would say that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Juliet, but like, no one wants to be like, yeah, I was so freaking hot, But it's really funny, Brent. This is like, we are obviously three people with a couple of the, what do you call them, the 5 Ds?
Yes, 5 Ds.
Our conversations are like,
right.
But one of the things you said when Juliet was like, yeah, I'm going to bring in one of my friends, and I don't think you were talking about me, but you were like, in the new year, I have one of my friends from high school coming in, and Brent's like, oh, would you hook up with him or whatever? And I,
the
just
fireman.
Of course
was it the fireman?
Really?
And I did not hook up with him.
Yeah, because I thought maybe, because I didn't know you were bringing other people from high school, so I thought maybe you were talking about me. Of course, see, everything's about me in our world. But I laughed so hard because the idea of what and who I was in high school and who you were in high school. There's not enough room in the screen.
Oh my God. I don't think that at all.
Of course you don't think that. No one wants to be like, yeah, I was like the super hot chick. Hot chicks are always like, and hot guys too. Oh, I was so awkward. I was such a nerd.
No, I was not awkward, and I was not nerdy. But I don't. That's very. Thank you. I'm like totally blushing. But no, I did not. I mean, Morristown had a lot of very good-looking people. I mean,
sure, absolutely. And again, your sister Megan, like literally a superpower. I mean, just from day one. I mean.
Prom
even
king and queen, like they were, like
Does that exist? Prom king and queen?
Yeah, dude, her sister and brother-in-law were from
Megan
King
and Jason
Queen.
were part. And
Homecoming King and Queen.
oh yeah, and I wasn't even not like, it wasn't like I was Danny Hughes like in my grade, but it would like, it was a joke because I always dated the older boys. we don't need to go into any of that. I didn't date people my age. But it is like it is, so my whole thing going back to the marching band. I did not realize you were in the marching band because marching band, and I mean, generally are dorks. And I did not think that you were a dork. I mean, but now the music, see, the thing is, that is one of the things with music. I wish that I did more. I'm awful with music, but I do wish that there was more times that was brought in, because I was just like the athlete, right? That was like what I was good at, stay in your lane, don't do anything else kind of thing. Sure.
Well, the music for me, I always had an interest because I took drum lessons,
right, which is amazing.
And I played drums all the time, and then when I got to college, my best friend was like, "You should learn to play guitar," and he bought me a cheap acoustic guitar, and I picked it up. And I loved it. I mean, I still remember the feeling of just like strumming an open G chord and just going ring, and I loved it so much. I really can't explain the feeling. It was just like, oh my God, cool. This is amazing. And then when I went to Goddard, what they do in progressive education and what they're good at is being like, oh, you like this? Chase this. You have to, and they go, it's more like, here's the ball, you run with it, and if you don't run with it, you don't get anything out of it. So it's a really like, you get exactly what you put into it. And I found a place in Montpelier, Vermont that would rent to own upright basses. And then I bought an electric bass. And that was it for me. All I did was cool. Boom. I hit one note and I knew it right there. Like I knew, I was like, this is all I want to do. And I was only there for 3 years because I had a couple of credits from my disaster at Ursinus College. And so I was there for 3 years, and that's all I did. I mean, all I did was play because I was so in love with it and I was so obsessed with it. And so in music school, they sort of give you like 10 years of information in 3 years or 4 years. And they go, all right, go out in the world and try to figure it out. And I immediately moved to Seattle, which is where Hunter lived. And there was a great scene still to this day, like the best musicians I've ever known. And I still keep in contact with all of them. And play with all of them. I actually just played my buddy Ty, who played in Katy Perry's band for 5 years, plays with Mitski, Joss Stone's musical director. This guy, these were my friends. They're the best musicians, the most creative people in the world.
The grunge scene.
Nice. Yeah. And when I got there, it was the jazz scene. It was the grunge. The grunge was like, was just not, because it was 2000 when I moved there. Grunge was obviously like, you'd still, you'd run into Mike McCready at the boxing gym, or like Dave Matthews lived there at the time. And, you'd run into these guys, but it was the scene at the time when I moved there was like this new school jazz, like funky kind of jazz. And I just was like, okay, this is all I'm doing. And I had a job for like 3 months. I was the worst employee that they ever had because I had to sit in front of you guys. I had to sit in front of a computer. I got a data entry job because this was the .com. This was the
right.
This was the .com boom. And so they were just giving out these jobs that paid really well. And you would sit in front of this computer and do a data entry. And I learned when I got fired that they obviously, I didn't even think, it didn't even occur to me that they'd be tracking my progress. I was just like, they're probably just trusting that I'm doing an awesome job. And I would sit in front of this computer for 5-10 minutes and I'd be like, I got to go outside and scoot. They had like these Razor scooters. I would scooter around the block and be like, okay, let me see if I can do like one thing.
Right.
So I got fired.
And how long are you in Seattle for?
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, I played in Vancouver, right? So that's exactly the time frame that I was in Vancouver.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 1998 when I started playing for the Vancouver Canucks. So
Nice.
I know that area pretty well.
Nice. Yeah. I loved it there especially at the time. It's way different now because I go back there. We play there. We play. I don't know if you know these places. The Triple Door, which is underneath the Wild Ginger downtown, and then the Crocodile. We play there, which is also downtown. So we play there all the time. It's way different than when we were there. You know, it was the coolest when we were there for sure.
Yeah, because you were there, right?
I loved it. Yeah. No, I didn't do much. I think the professional hockey player who won a Stanley Cup is probably a cooler.
I hadn't won that Stanley Cup yet. That was my early 20s. So we go up to Seattle.
Your early 20s, your fun times.
Well, actually earlier than that. So junior hockey, there was a team in Seattle Thunderbirds. That's where I got my first fake ID when I was 16. So started rolling in the bars at 16.
Oh, wow.
Chinatown, $10 for my fake ID. Yeah. So,
right.
Seattle brings some fond memories.
Yeah.
You could see her smile.
My picture, I just had my own address. So yeah, started rolling the bars at 16. It was perfect.
Nice.
That's
very nice.
16, right? Wow, you're definitely trouble.
No, come on. What do you mean trouble?
Yeah.
There was no trouble. It was perfect.
At 16, yeah. That's so interesting. I love that you guys both have that memories of that area. It is
the Space Needle.
Yeah. We would do, my friend Hunter and I and all of our friends would do the night before New Year's Eve. We always had dinner at the restaurant at the top of Space Needle. The rotating restaurant, yeah.
Rotating, the elevators were all glass. I almost have a heart attack every time. You get squished in there in this glass elevator.
Legitimately scary.
Yeah. And then there's the little theme park, a little roller coaster underneath it.
Yep. Yeah. The Seattle Center down there. Yeah. Super fun.
And Hunter's still there, right? Does he still live in that? He still lives in that area. So, Brent, just to bring in context, so there was when we swam at Sunnybrook. So it was like the summer swimming club, and John, Hunter, my sister Megan, and was it Brian Murray?
Brian Murray and Jared Owell.
And Jared, and then they had like this 4, and they were. I think you guys won. Didn't you win or come in second or whatever in Tri-County and all?
Juliet, we never came in second.
You always came in first. Yeah, you came in first. So you guys were like, yes, I'm sorry. Right. But I was like, sure. I think that you definitely, they were so good. And they were these it was when you were 5 and under. And then, I think you guys, that relay won until guys were older until.
Yeah. We had club records until maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And it's crazy. And my sister was
club records in swimming. See how fast you can get to the bottom.
Yeah, he hates swimming. He does not swim. He's still very good friends with one of the kids that was in their group, which just also says about where we grew up. Like I still have so many of the girls that I grew up with that I'm still really good friends with. It was a really special town. So Jon, Brent knows Danielle Filler, now Fetty, who was who dated Brian Murray, which we were just talking about because I just was with her in California. But it's such an interesting, talking about, the more you talk about, do you have anyone in your world that is also dyslexic that you connect with all of a sudden, when you're telling stories, or is it kind of it doesn't really come up?
Yeah, I keep all this. I keep a lot of my stuff close to the vest. I think, that being said, I think it's I think it's really cool that you guys were we want to do this outwardly. I think it's really cool that people do that, and I think it's awesome what you guys are doing, and especially I think it's important because I think people don't understand the struggle because it's invisible. The story Brent told about like talking to like people at his daughter's school, and they were just kind of like, well, whatever, and he was like, you're going to get punched in the face. I related to that. That was great. So I think it's really cool what you guys do. And I think it's important for people to do this outwardly. I really keep everything, even like my sobriety, like people can know me for years and they'll be like, hey, have a beer. And I'm like, I haven't had a beer in 20 years, and they'll be like, what? You drink all the time with me? And I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, that's just the way I like to do it. Yeah. It's not, so I really keep all this stuff like really close to my vest. I don't play my cards a ton. I have no secrets. I mean, I'm happy to talk to all this stuff about, if people want to talk about stuff, I'm happy. I'll share anything. I'm not ashamed of any of it, but yeah, it doesn't really come up that much. And especially because I am like a professional musician, nobody goes like, nobody gives me something to read and then I'm there 20 minutes later going like, oh God, right. It doesn't rear its ugly head all that often. Yeah. So which is great. Which is nice. It's nice for me. Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, that is nice. And as you said earlier, like the fact that we're talking about this and we were, talking about when we went to school, I mean, bringing it back to word blindness, the name that was, in the early 1900s, right? The late 1800s, they knew about dyslexia. And we still are where we are without yes, it's talked about, okay, you can have this reading. Brent, and I haven't told you, I was talking to my mom and she was saying, it's so interesting, this whole fight now with the, all the reading things. And she goes, it's like what we did 20 years ago. This is exactly what we were fighting about 20 years ago or however many years. And don't quote me on the time, but she's like, it, as I'm reading the articles, she's like, I literally am stopping and being like, we've already done this. Like why are we fighting about this still? Like we know what needs to be done. It's not that hard.
Yeah. I notice, I notice people being like, and I do this with other people, with other things where there's a balance there. There's a saying that I like, that is, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility, right? So like I said, I can't spell restaurant. I just can't do it. I can't even get it close enough for autocorrect. If I really wanted to, I could sit down and go, all right, man, this is harder for you than maybe anyone else, but every day you need to get up and you need to spell restaurant. And in a week or two, I could have restaurant down. I could do it if I wanted to. And I haven't done it. You know what I mean? So I think that there's this balance in there. And this is, I don't know how to say it, but
no, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Part of what was good for me about having all this anxiety and all this dyslexia and all this ADHD and all of these things, and no one really knowing what to do with me, it was up to me. It was like, this is your thing, man. And I had a bunch, when I was getting sober, I had a bunch of years in there where I was having crippling panic attacks multiple times a day. Anytime I was in public, I would sit there and just like, I'm going to shit my pants and I'm going to throw up because I'm so anxious. But I had to white knuckle it. And if I, I'm not saying this for anyone else but me, but like, because I had to white knuckle it for all these years, I'm in a really good place with it. I really put in the work and I really worked hard at being like, what is this? I need to figure out how to deal with this, and I need to figure out this thing. So there is a little bit of accountability that has to be taken, right? So there's a balance in there somewhere. And God, again, I lost my train of thought.
No, but I hear what you're saying. Like there is as much as, and that's where it's kind of hard though. And I think what you're saying is, as each person, right? And I mean, and that's the thing with the foundation, and Brent, if you want to jump in, but like with the foundation, that's one of the reasons why Brent started it, is so like he can give those people the tools. So yes, you can white knuckle it, but you know what? You can white knuckle it with someone being there, because all of us, if you think about, all of us have our traumas. We've all gone through, we've come out on the other side, you know, for the most part, but there's some people that don't, right? That take their lives because they can't do it, because it's just like, right. And it's,
and I would never recommend white knuckling it for anyone.
Totally.
That's not the way
no,
to
you
do
said
it.
you said for yourself. Yes, 100%. I got what you were saying.
And I think my point was that I think it's for people that don't struggle with things. It's easy for them to be like, you could do this if you wanted to, because there is a little bit of that where it's like, I could do this if I wanted to, and but it's like it's harder for me, so I'm not gonna do it or whatever.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that. So I think that's where it comes from, with people being like, well, sorry, Brent, your daughter just needs to work harder, you know, which is awful. But I don't think they, you know, I think people don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? And so they see it the way they're going to see it, you know? So it's just like, just do it.
Right. And that's why knowledge is power, right? Yeah. Knowledge is power. And that's why I stalked him for the podcast. And
because you're finally admitting it.
No, I just say that and I laugh in my head because whatever. So it is like what he's been doing with the foundation is kind of building that, right, behind the scenes to be able to say to kids and parents, right? Like, I know we've had to white knuckle it, or we've had to do this, or we've had to take accountability, but let's try to make it a little less, because not everyone is as strong, right? Not everyone's built the same, and not everyone can do it. So, and it's important.
Let's give people the tools so that they can be accountable.
Tools and understanding. You can't, if you don't have any understanding, you're not going to have any tools. They come hand in hand. Yeah, absolutely. And for every person that was able to white knuckle it, there's probably way more people that were like, well, I'm just going to give up. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, I'm drowning here. So let's just stop it. So. There is, you know, very few ever get on the other side of white knuckling.
Yeah.
You know, again, that goes back to John telling, one, how strong you are, and two, and how really smart you are. You're brilliant to be able to articulate those words to your dad at that young of an age. You know, I know people that have a hard time who's married with kids to articulate those words in their adulthood. So be proud of, you know, what you are, who you are, because you stand on a pedestal of being strong, of being brilliant in your own way.
Thank you. I appreciate that a ton.
And I want to say also, you know, shout out to your family, because even though they were hard on you at times,
I feel like you Cosby show without you. That's bullshit.
Yeah. But I feel like, and also you have friends. You've had support where, and maybe even though you white knuckled it, you know, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, you white knuckled it behind the scenes, but you are a loved person that has people.
Absolutely. My parents and my sister and her family are the best people. I mean, they really are great. You know, I don't, you know, everyone, including me, and I wasn't an awesome kid to be around, you know, so everyone has their role to play. My family's awesome. I love my family. I talk to my parents a couple days a week on the phone. I talk to my sister all the time. So yeah.
Right. And I mean, I do have those memories. I mean, your parents definitely were good people, and same with your sister. But
you guys got all your Speedos? Do you guys keep your collection of Speedos?
I still have Speedos.
I'm sure you do.
I do. You know, I've done triathlons or whatever, you know, just like these little sprint triathlons. So I still swim from time to time. And Brent, I'm telling you, if you ever want a swim lesson, I can help you. I can absolutely help you.
He's a really, really good swimmer. I do not have any Speedos anymore and the swim things. I gave up swimming, I think, in high school, freshman year. I was like, fuck this, because I used to cheat. I used to go under the lanes. Actually, your sister and my older sister used to get so
How do you
pissed at me.
cheat in swimming? How do you mean go under the lanes? You got to go straight forward and back.
No, I would go and then cut the line. Oh, I know how to cut lines. I used to do it in field hockey and lacrosse too. Yeah, I know.
I remember that. That's one of the things you can do. You can hide underneath, not go all the way in practice, at least.
Yeah. Right. You can't do it in a competition.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out this. What do you mean? Yeah.
It's just, it's just like, it's just like cross country being like, well, if we cut over here, it cuts out a mile.
Oh yeah.
I don't need to beat anyone. No, just so I didn't have to, like, because that, yeah. That's a whole nother story. But Jon, I mean, seriously, thank you. It's so good to see your face.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you
I'm
guys.
so excited to see you and just kind of reminisce and thank you for sharing, because again, it helps when people can hear other people's stories. I mean, stories connect us. I say it all the time. And, we appreciate you joining Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. You guys know what to do. Like, rate, review, and share, because you don't know who needs to hear this. You don't know who has had a similar experience or knows someone that needs some inspiration in their life. So don't forget to rate and share.